How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Marvel Movies Podcast. Once again, I'm joined by Ethan, and today we're going to be going over the second X-Men movie, just called X2.
Yes.
So Ethan, say hi.
Hello, hello.
Alright, as always, if you guys have missed the other two, we've already covered the first X-Men and the first Spider-Man, and now moving into our first sequel today. So, right off the bat, quick thoughts. I personally think this movie was a gigantic improvement over the first one by like a long shot.
Yes,
do you think?
I agree. They actually had a storyline for this one, so already 10 times better.
Yeah. So, this one definitely was a big improvement. I think it was directed by the same guy, Bryan Singer, and it definitely felt like a continuation of the first one, but just like the dude took everything to 11. Like, it was really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Alright, try not to sneeze. Okay, so now we're gonna be getting into, as always, our positives and our mixed and our negatives for the movie. So my first positive is that they handled the idea of racism a lot better in this movie than the first one.
Yeah.
Like, in the first one, they, went into it a little bit in the beginning, and that's something that I praised last time. But in this one, they handled it a lot better, where, they went off into, Bobby's family about how they felt about mutants.
Yeah.
Stryker, especially, about how he felt about mutants.
Yeah.
And just overall, I like how whenever different people are talking about the topic, that they did it in a very, how do I say, respectful manner. They handled it extremely well, I think.
Yeah. One thing that I had written down was his family, is how they were fine with it in a sense, but they didn't, with all the things going on in the world in the movie, they didn't want him to be a part of it. So one of the mom's lines was, "Have you tried not being a mutant?" I found that one funny. And then Stryker's comments of calling mutants creatures and animals and stuff.
I think they did a very, very good job about diving into the different aspects of it. Because again, pretty much the whole point of X-Men is basically a racism story about society, about how people can deal with all that kind of stuff with Nightcrawler, where he was in a circus and people always looked at him and they judged him just by looking at him. Again, I think the whole X-Men thing is just an allegory for racism. And while these movies definitely don't focus on it too much because they don't want to make a whole statement on it yet, they're definitely diving into it a little bit, and I think that the little bit that they do helps a lot to elevate the movie, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright, so what is your first positive?
Well, I've got a few. Let's see. One of my first positives is I love how they focused more on Storm's powers this time. They really showed how powerful she actually is, and she kind of was the main powerhouse of the movie, I think, with all of her powers and stuff. She was definitely used a lot more. And I feel like that's more the way Storm is in the comics. She's more of the leader. Well, more of a leader type than a secondary character. So I feel like they portrayed that very well.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. Because I remember, again, the first few minutes of the movie, we were like, "Oh my God, look, she actually said something right away this time." Wow. So it's really good. I think they did a very good job improving her from the last movie. Because in the last movie, she was in my mixed. Because she didn't do anything. But in this one, she's a positive. She does a lot in this movie, and they, like you said, they do a very good job showing off her powers and stuff. A lot more than I thought. Because I've seen this movie before, but this time, wow, Storm's actually doing a lot this time.
Yeah.
Wow. So.
I remember I watched this movie a long time ago, and
Mm-hmm.
it still holds up in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
it they really stepped it up from the first one. It
Mm-hmm.
much longer, and
Yeah.
the actual storyline you could follow. You could follow what their plans were, and
Mm-hmm.
the resolution to everything. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like it was a real balanced movie. And
Mm-hmm.
moving on to my second positive is they actually had the characters work as a team, which is something they didn't do in the first
Yes.
movie.
Yep.
They felt like more of a team. They worked well as a team, and the characters actually had connections to each other.
Mm-hmm. Like everything on Stryker's Island, I don't know, Alkali Lake? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it's called. Everything there, like, they all had something to do for the most part, and I was like, wow, yeah, look at them actually being, like, a team this time.
yeah,
Because the only time that they really teamed up in the first movie was at, like, the last, like, 2 seconds
yeah,
when they're about to take out Magneto, so it's like, yeah. And like this one, like sure it dealt with Wolverine a lot, but he was in it a lot less than I remembered him being. Like I thought that
yeah,
this movie was like Wolverine focused, but watching it this time, I'm like, wow, no, he really wasn't the main character this time. So
yeah.
I think they did
That's
that.
something I actually like about this movie. Is
Mhm.
in the first one they focused on Wolverine being the main character, but this time they drew back and his character development, like looking in his past, wasn't the whole movie. Yes, the
Yep.
main villain was like the main bad guy was the one who did the experiments on him, but they didn't focus so heavily on that being the reason for them going there and everything.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
that
and like that's really good.
yeah, that was also one of my positives is that they did go into Wolverine's character more
Mhm.
in like background sense, like building him up, building up the character, and which is something they just didn't do in the first one, where
Yep.
he was just Wolverine, who guy without a memory and with powers. So
Yep.
I'm I'm happy that they were to able to build up his backstory so we could like understand him more as a character.
Yeah, and they didn't dive into it too much, which I think they did a
Yeah,
good job on, because like unfortunately we're gonna see Wolverine's origin told very terribly in another movie.
yeah,
So seeing it this time, like I think they do a good enough job where like they don't dive too much into it. Where like there's still like by the end there's still like that big mystery of like, oh, what did Wolverine do beforehand,
yeah,
like, and why did he volunteer for it and stuff. And again, the answer that we eventually get is really fucking stupid. But I like how they left it open enough where it was like, okay, we finally can connect to Wolverine now because we understand what happened to him. But there's still enough lingering mysteries where it's still his character is still interesting. So I think they did a very good job with that.
yeah. They didn't go too heavy into revealing all the secrets, and they left some mystery,
Hmm.
which balanced it
Yeah.
out.
Hmm. All right. So moving on to my next one, I have to say Magneto, bro, he stole the show in
Oh
this
yeah,
movie. Like he was amazing in every scene that he was in.
definitely.
Like God, like because again, Ian McKellen, fantastic actor. You and I felt that they kind of like shafted him in the first
Yeah,
movie, or like he did a good enough job because we like him,
yeah,
but the problem is that his plan was awful,
yeah,
and everyone around him was awful. And I think that they did the amazing thing in this one where they just completely got rid of his henchmen. Where
yeah,
they just like, okay, Toad's gone, Sabretooth is gone, so now we only have him with Mystique. And basically he's with Mystique the entire time, but like they bounce off each other super well.
yeah,
And when he's with the X-Men, especially, he bounces off of them fantastic. Like every scene that he's in, he steals it. Even though he's in this movie a lot, I wish he was in it a lot more because he was
yeah,
just so entertaining when he was on screen.
yeah. I also have his whole plan worked out
Mm-hmm.
perfectly in this movie. Um,
Yep.
like him and Mystique working together to free him, get him out of the
Mm-hmm.
prison. That was
Yeah.
amazing. I loved
Yeah.
that. I love how they explained what happened, like what their plan actually was, because
Yep.
comparing that to what they did to Cerebro in the first movie, they didn't explain what they had done to it, but in like freeing him from the prison with the putting the iron in his blood, that was like they actually explained what happened and why it worked, and it made it feel much better, more explained. So it made sense that he actually escaped instead of just saying he escaped.
Yeah.
So
they definitely in this one like fleshed out more scenes in general.
yeah,
And because again, this one like I'm not gonna say that it's a bad thing, but this movie definitely felt like its runtime,
yeah,
and that's not a bad thing. Like sometimes there are movies that I watch where like it's 2.5 hours and I can feel every second of that 2.5 hours in like a bad way.
yeah,
But in this one, like it felt like it's runtime, but I was like, okay, I'm invested in it. I completely understand why it's this runtime.
yeah,
And I think it's like after the first one where like we watch it and it felt like a legit 25-minute movie.
yeah,
Watching this one especially was like, okay, this one actually feels like a movie and not just like an episode of a TV show.
yeah,
So I think that one, like, it definitely elevates it a lot because they fleshed out so much more stuff, like you said, like Mystique going to break him out of prison by putting the iron in that guy's blood.
yeah.
Like, they didn't need to show it because in the first one they apparently didn't need to show it,
Mhm.
but them especially being like, okay, yeah, we're going to show you everything so you understand everything, made it 10 times more enjoyable.
Yeah, taking the time to flesh out all the scenes made it like
Mm-hmm.
the runtime. They did it perfectly because I love the 2 hours because they have more time to flesh everything out and make everything flow better, and that just really helped the movie opposed to the first one.
Definitely. Alright. Okay, so what is your next positive?
Well, let's see here. Nightcrawler. I love his character. I remember the first time I watched it, I wasn't too sold on it, but now watching it again, his powers, the way they portray his powers are amazing. Like his ability to teleport and like how quick he is, how agile he is, and like his character actually means something to the movie. And you can, even though he wasn't in it, like he didn't have the most lines, and he didn't have the most screen time, they were actually able to build a character off of him, and it fit in the story.
Really impressive.
And another thing is, his body paint was incredible. Like all the symbols on him, and the the tail too. That was awesome. And even the effects, the CGI for the like smoke, his teleporting smoke, it looked amazing. They didn't hold back on that, and it worked really well.
Yeah, like the opening scene where like he went in to kill the president was like awesome. Like that was so cool.
Yeah.
And all the effects that they did there. Because I don't really remember the opening of the first one that much. Like, I think it was just Rogue. It was Magneto, and then it was Rogue. But, like, in this one, like, the opening, like, hooks you instantly. Because watching this, I was like, wow. Like, yeah, that was an amazing opening.
Yeah.
So, I think to really hook us in, they had to do something really cool, and they definitely did.
Yeah, the mysterious, like, who is this guy? What's he doing? Why is he trying to kill the president?
Yeah.
And then I love how in like when they go to find him in the church, and they like it's revealed that he had that mind control liquid or whatever like dripped on him, so like he wasn't in control. And I love how they explain that too. Like he didn't know, he could see everything he was doing, but he couldn't like control himself.
Yeah. And I like how that's a theme throughout the movie, too.
Yeah.
Not like a theme, but like it keeps coming. Like Cyclops said it earlier.
Yeah.
Said it later to Jean. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I saw you, but I couldn't do anything." So I think it's good that they made it consistent.
Yeah.
Because I know in this franchise they're really not good at keeping things consistent. So when they do, it's like really important to point it out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And like I think as a character he was fantastic too. I do wish he was in it more, but
Hmm.
like when he did a really really good job. And I liked his relationship with Storm that he forged.
Yeah.
And how, like, again, going back to the racism topic, like they talked about how they both view humanity,
Hmm.
and how Storm, oh well, how Nightcrawler pities them because all they can see is what they see with their own two eyes. They can't see underneath. And he says that he pities them, and Storm is like, "Oh yeah, well I gave up on that a long time ago,"
Yeah.
which again just goes to show that she just really doesn't like humans that much because of how she was treated. But
Yeah.
um, Nightcrawler eventually changes her mind in the end, and it's like, "No, you need to have faith in them." And then at the end, she says, "Like, oh yeah, well I have faith in you." So I
Yeah.
think like the whole plot line between those two was handled extremely well.
Yeah. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Um, all right. So next positive is that I like how Iceman had a lot more to do. Bobby,
Yes, definitely.
like yeah, like he did because he was only in the first one for like I think like two scenes.
Yeah.
Like, and even the scenes that he was in, he was Mystique.
Yeah.
So it's like yeah, he
Yeah.
really didn't have much to do. But in this one, they really like fleshed him out.
Hmm.
And like his relationship with Wolverine was funny. Like when Wolverine handed him like the Dr. Pepper and he blew on it to cool it down. I
Yeah.
thought that was a cool display of power. Like
Yeah.
that was cool. And again, he also wasn't in it very much, but he was in it a lot in the beginning. But once like the final thing happened, he was just like into helicarrier the whole time.
Yeah.
But when he was in it, he did a very good job, and his whole family was really sad
Yeah.
because like I kind of relate to it in a way where like
Hmm.
you're one person and they want you to be something else,
Yeah.
and his whole family just never really accepted him for who he really is, and I think that's just really sad because his own brother called the cops on him just
Yeah.
because he's a mutant, and it's like damn, that's really messed up. And
Yeah.
I just think the whole plot line there was really sad, but they handled that very well.
Yeah, definitely. Going into that more, I think um, they definitely showed his connection with his family very well. Um,
Hmm.
like how his parents were like disappointed, kind of like, "Oh, you're a mutant." That's not like for the current times they're in. Is how mutants are looked down upon as like being bad guys,
Yep.
like being evil,
Hmm.
and like them seeing their son is a mutant, they're like they love him. They're like they're his he's their son. So
Hmm.
they definitely showed it that like they were struggling, like trying to like work through it. And then
Hmm.
I think with the brother, I think he was just jealous that like his brother had powers and he didn't, so he just took it
Hmm.
out on him by calling the cops, which I
Yeah.
think they portrayed that very well, like seeing like actual emotion in the movie,
Hmm.
like they had a reason for doing something.
Yeah. And like again, we don't really that's the thing about this movie which I think is really cool cuz just there's a lot of things that are going on,
Hmm.
and they do a good job of like fleshing out everything but not oversaturating with it. Like we
Yeah.
focus on Bobby's family, it's a big thing, but also moves on really fast. But it
Yeah.
doesn't move on too fast where you're like why was that there? And there's like so many little beats in this movie that I think are just they focus their time on and then just move along. So where like it's meaningful enough where you like you can remember it and think about like a deeper meaning to it and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it does an extremely good job with that. And
Yeah.
again, I know I keep saying that this movie does a really good job, but like really comparing it to the first one, it's like Jesus Christ, this movie's like a million times better.
Yeah.
Like it really blows me away how great this one is compared to the first one. So
Yeah, I definitely,
yeah.
even like in the first scene, I was like, "Oh my god, this movie is going to be so much better." Like I could already feel
Yeah.
like the energy that the movie was giving off. Like it's already going to be so much better.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. So what is your next positive?
Oh, something that I liked with the fight in like the adamantium lab.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that because it showed that he has a weakness. Not
Mhm.
like on him, but it like his the one he was fighting had basically the same powers as him, and it showed that he could be defeated
Mm-hmm.
because, like, he's not invincible. Is what I'm trying to say. It like
Mm-hmm.
it made him more human, I guess. Like not godlike, I say,
Yeah.
and like using the adamantium to kill her, even though it let me rephrase that. Using it to kill her was like smart, and
Mm-hmm.
then it also added emotion into it when he realized like, oh, she was like being mind controlled. That wasn't actually her.
Yeah.
It
Mm-hmm.
actually was sad. Like he
Yeah.
just killed someone
Definitely.
who didn't want to fight him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in that scene also it showed that he could be killed. There's just
Mm-hmm.
you have to find the right way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Because a big complaint in these movies, like from in the first one to this one to later on, like a giant complaint that most people have is that Wolverine just is invincible, and that
Yeah.
there's really no stakes to whenever he's on screen, and that's why they need to put like other people. They need to put him with other people because if you
Yeah.
don't, then it's just like, oh, well, I know he's gonna come out on top because you really can't kill him.
Right.
But
And
I think her name was Lady Shiva or something.
I
But
think
when they had
I think so,
her
yeah.
fight, it's like he basically lost. Like
Yeah.
he was no match for her. And if that adamantium thing he put inside of her wasn't there, he probably would have lost and died. So I think they did a good job being like, yeah, don't worry, he's not invincible. Like if we get the right person, then
Yeah.
yeah, he's really. So I think they did a really good job making
Yeah.
it seem that like, oh yeah, don't worry,
Yeah, and
he's not
also
invincible.
also like in the beginning of the scene when they start fighting, I'm like they could just go on forever because
Yep.
no one's gonna like they both regenerate. They basically the same powers, so they could just keep
Mm-hmm.
fighting forever. But I love how
Yep.
the way they ended the fight was like perfect, I'd say.
Yeah. And like you said, it was really sad too,
Yeah,
because like once like the white light left her eyes,
yeah,
he like you could tell on his face, he's like, oh shit,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
And
like
that's what I mean, like the emotion in this movie is
yeah,
like, damn, like we didn't know her, but it's like she didn't deserve it. Like she
right.
didn't really do anything, so
Yeah, and
sad.
like throughout the movie you see like how Stryker's using them. Like
Mm-hmm.
once the effects of the whatever he's giving them wears off, he's like puts more on so that
Yep.
they like he's basically controlling them,
Mm-hmm.
and it it's messed up, yeah, but it also shows that like they can be controlled, and if someone really wants to, they can take all the mutants out, and they can be
Yep.
used for bad things, even though they might be a good person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, going to like Magneto again, like he's definitely a bad person, but Stryker's definitely pretty bad himself.
Yeah,
So when he was controlling Magneto, to have him reveal like how to build Cerebro and stuff,
yeah,
it's really like, yeah, damn, he can even control Magneto,
yeah,
and so it's like, yeah, this dude's definitely like not a force to be reckoned with. And even though he's just a
yeah,
human, that's what I think is really interesting. Because like in the first one, it was mutants versus mutants, and this one, it's really like mutants versus a very powerful human.
yeah. I think it
And
really shows that even though mutants have powers, uh, the scales still can be balanced. Like,
yeah,
just
exactly.
because mutants have powers doesn't mean they're more powerful than
Mm-hmm.
humans can be.
Yep.
And the,
Because if Magneto wasn't there, all of the mutants would be dead.
yeah,
So it's like, yeah, Jesus.
yeah, and I also liked how they worked well with like they set aside their differences to put it like to go after a common evil.
Yep.
And I also liked that they didn't take away from Magneto's plan either, because
Yep.
he didn't save Xavier.
Nope.
They saved all the mutants, but then he still enacted his plan by turning him
Mm-hmm.
against humans
Yep.
instead of just freeing him.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the way they did it, they had them working together, but they didn't take away from all their values.
Yeah, like they did a very, very good job showing off that.
Yeah.
Because again, Magneto, like just because he was working with him doesn't mean that he's a good guy now. Like no, he still has
Hmm.
his own plans and stuff he has to do. So obviously he's not just gonna be like, oh yeah, no worries, I'll help you guys out. Like no, he has his own plans, he has his own
Yeah.
contingencies and shit like that. So
Yeah.
like yeah, they did a very good job with that.
Yeah.
And going off of Magneto, I will say that his partner Mystique did so much more in this
Oh
movie.
yeah, definitely.
Like she was basically like, besides Storm, she was the other main heavy hitter in this one.
Yeah.
She went off and did everything. She found out all the information about Cerebro. She was able to break Magneto out of jail. She was able
Yeah.
to infiltrate strikers, let everybody in,
Hmm.
to continuously go on to enact her plan to make Jason like, oh yeah, kill all the humans. So
Hmm.
she did a lot in this movie, which I think is really good because this is spoiler alert. This is pretty much all she does for the rest of the movies. It's the most what she gets, but until she turns into Jennifer Lawrence. But
Right.
it's really nice because from the first one, where like she was like just some chick who was there who could shapeshift occasionally.
Yeah.
Like in this one, she's definitely like a gigantic threat, and I think
Yeah.
it's a very good, do a really good job with her.
Yeah, they really showed why Magneto keeps her around, and like she's useful. She's way more powerful than you'd think for just a shapeshifter, right? So
Mhm.
they really did a good job showing that too.
And yeah, so that's pretty much all my positives with the movie. Do you have anything else?
Um, I mean the mind control liquid we kind of went into, but
Hmm.
I really think that it really did balance out, like showing how mutants aren't all powerful, that they can be
Yeah.
taken out. So it was really cool to see.
Yeah, definitely. Cause who else? Yeah, I think cause yeah, it was Magneto. It was Lady Shiva, Nightcrawler, and all these guys are pretty powerful. And like, I'm pretty sure that if anybody was fighting against Lady Shiva, they'd lose.
Yeah,
But just the fact that he had that liquid from his son's brain, it's like, wow. Yep, even like a regular human can come up with a way to completely control a mutant, even that's as powerful as her. So
yeah,
yeah, they did a nice way to show off that like, nope, not all mutants are bad. It just depends on the person. So
yeah. Well, saying that about Jason, I just came up with another positive. So, um, the way he treats his son, like it's his son, but he he the way he sees it is his son's dead. It's not
yep.
like it's not his son anymore, which
Hmm.
it is. It is his son, and it's weird to see how. Like, I love how they like told the background of how Jason like Xavier couldn't teach him, right?
Hmm.
And but on the other hand, you see Stryker as his dad saying like he sent him to Xavier to fix him, like
Hmm.
like mutation was a disease,
Yep.
which they over and over say it's not a disease, it's a gift, right?
Hmm.
And then like he like turns on his own son and like uses him for his own agenda,
Yep.
and like Xavier is saying, how could you do this to your son? And he's like, it's not my son is dead. And
Yep.
it really shows how powerful Stryker is. Like,
Hmm.
he's driven to kill all the mutants, and it really like shows how shows how powerful he is, and he has a drive to do something with his to get rid of all the mutants.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter if even if it's his own son, he hates him so much. He's like,
Yeah.
nope, I'm gonna kill them all.
Hmm.
And like, no, keep going.
Hmm?
um, for like going off of like his son, For Jason, um, for the most part, he's a positive for me. There are certain things that I'll go into when we get to mixed, but
Yeah.
I will say that the whole thing about Jason being dead is not true.
Hmm.
Because Stryker's just like, nope, he is my. He's just this. I don't remember what he called him, but he said, "Oh, it's experiment 1, 2, 3 or something like that."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh no, yeah, no, he's not my son," and I'm just gonna use him as a tool. And
Yep.
for the whole time, it really seems like Jason's not there anymore. Like he
Yeah.
really is dead. But at the very end of the movie, when Storm's about to like save Professor X, the little girl that Jason was basically, it was Jason, but it was him as the little girl talking to the professor. Right when it was about to be broken, the little girl was like, "Oh my God, he's gonna be so mad at me,"
Yeah.
which really sucked. 'Cause it's like, oh my God, he really is still in there, and he knows that if he screws this up, his dad's gonna like beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's really, really messed up even more because it's like, oh my God, like his son, like nope, he's still there and he's still.
Yeah.
It's just it really sucks.
Yeah. One thing, again, going off what you just said, is at the beginning, like when Jason was introduced, they're saying like he uh, was putting illusions in his parents' head because he blamed them
Mm-hmm.
for whatever was happening to him, and
Mm-hmm.
you could see how like the difference. You could see how Jason was broken at the end, like how he had been broken by his father to do his bidding, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Jason like hated his parents, and again, what you said when he was like the illusion of the girl, like saying, "Oh, he's going to be so mad at me." It shows that he was broken like mentally by his father, and
Yep.
like he doesn't have a personality anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He is like he's been like brainwashed kind of into like believing that he is weak and he can't beat his father, right?
Yep.
So they really did a good job at showing that, oh, he's been broken and he really is beyond saving.
Mm-hmm. And like yeah, that whole thing is just really sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much all my positives. Again, there are a lot more things, but they're just so minute. It's like yeah, I'm not gonna spend
Yeah.
I'm not gonna break down every second of the movie, but yeah, just overall, I gotta say like the movie definitely has so many more positives than it does like mixed or negatives.
Yeah.
Because going back to the first X-Men, even the first Spider-Man, really, like I will say, watching the first Spider-Man was a lot more fun to watch. Like it was like a turn your brain off, just have fun comic book movie.
Yeah.
But this one like felt like a movie. Like it was trying to say something. It was trying to be something.
Yeah.
And I think they extremely succeeded in what they were trying to do. So I will say that I definitely would prefer to watch the first Spider-Man just because it's just something to watch to have fun.
Yeah.
But I will say that this one is definitely the better movie, definitely
Yeah.
overall.
I agree with that.
Again,
yeah.
last week we had some. We did have positives, but we had a lot more mixed and negatives to say. But
Yeah.
this one, we have a lot more positives to say. So
Yeah.
so
Oh.
yeah. So I'm gonna move into my first mixed, which goes off of what we were just talking about. And while I think the Jason plotline was definitely a positive overall because of all the implications of how evil Stryker is and how awful he treated mutants and his son,
Yeah.
I will say that what he was doing to Professor X, I think, was a mix because Professor X got taken out in like the first 5 minutes of the movie,
Yeah.
and it was just used as like a tool the entire time. So for me, it just kind of sucks because Professor X didn't really do much in the first movie, but he was still around until like the last like 10 minutes, and in this one, he gets taken out like right away. So it's like, oh, that
Yeah.
kind of sucks because he was basically just used, and I do like how he was used,
Hmm.
but it just kind of sacrifices a little bit of the character because in this movie he really doesn't do anything. So it's
Yeah.
like,
And like you were saying last time, there's a recurring theme of him being so powerful that they have to take him out. sooner,
Yeah.
so he doesn't like overpower everything. Which
Hmm.
I agree with you. It's a mix, but I do agree with what they're doing by taking him out
Yeah, me
sooner,
too.
because
Yeah.
if they didn't, he would have been too
One.
powerful again to like he would have just ended it in like 2 minutes. So
Yep.
with what they did with him, I really liked what they did with him though.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I really liked what they did with him in this movie. Like, it did suck that he got taken out right away, but like, when he was in the dream state, like when he, first off, when he like looked down and saw that he could walk, like the tear went down his eye. That was really sweet.
Yeah.
And then he instantly turned to Jason and be like, "Hey, stop it!" Which is like, oh my god, yeah, he's still like he's trying to balance it out because he's so
Yeah.
powerful. Again, Patrick Stewart, he did a fantastic acting job in this
Hmm.
one, but
Yeah.
just I think what brings us down a lot more is that in the last movie they took him out for the exact same reason, and I feel like if they'd never taken him out, then it would have been better. Because you can still have Professor X be in the first one if with a couple of rewrites,
Hmm.
because he can't get into Magneto's head because he has the helmet.
Yeah.
So it's like he can't really do anything, but he can still try to help everybody, I think. So I think that it was a big missed opportunity to take him out so stupidly and easily in the first movie. And then, again, future spoilers, in next movie, he also gets taken out pretty easily. So I think that's just a big complaint just for me overall as like a Professor
Yeah.
X fan. Because it's just like, oh my god, like Patrick Stewart's doing a fantastic job. And I feel like if this was like the only movie where he got taken out, then that would elevate this even higher. Because like, oh my god, Professor X is gone. Now what do we do? But since we've
Yeah.
already had that before, and we'll have that again in the future quite a bit, it just sucks. Because it's like, he really, even though he's so powerful, he seems like a wimp because he gets taken out so easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like they could have I feel like they could have kept him in longer, but
Hmm.
the way they did it was they did a good job with it. They actually had a reason for it, but
Hmm.
they definitely could have kept him in there longer, and that it would have
Yeah.
been still would have been good.
Um. All right. So, do you have any other mixed?
I do have a mixed, and that is how weak Wolverine is shown, even though he's also shown to be very strong.
Yeah.
He gets I'm okay, right now I'm kind of comparing him to Deadpool
Hmm.
in the way that their powers are basically the same with regeneration wise.
Yeah.
When they're at Bobby's house, like his family's house, he gets shot in the head by the cop, and then he just
Hmm.
goes down
He just goes out.
like he's knocked out. And I don't think that that would happen,
No.
because I mean, I guess, I mean, he has an adamantium skull, so he
Yeah.
shouldn't get knocked out.
Hmm.
I mean, it could have been like the impact of the bullet hitting his forehead. Like, okay, maybe that knocked him out, but I don't think that that would happen, because
No.
what I'm comparing it to is a scene in Deadpool where he gets something like literally shoved through his brain, and he's still conscious. So
Yeah.
it just comparing those two, I feel like they didn't show his. It just felt it felt forced, kind of like
Yep.
they needed I feel like they just wanted him not in the scene, like to show
Yeah.
Pyro's ability.
Hmm.
So I think they kind of forced that one in there, but
Yeah.
it just really it doesn't make sense, is what I'm saying. Kind of, it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense of why he would go down after being shot
Hmm.
when he's shown to be like he has super fast regeneration, and it didn't seem right. 'Cause-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Because again, even in like later movies, he gets shot in the head and he just keeps going. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay. And like, I guess I could talk about Pyro. Like, he's not really anything to me. Like, I think the lesson, like with Magneto being like, oh yeah, don't worry, stop trying to hide who you are. You are a mutant. I think that's really good. Pyro
Yeah.
overall, I think like his powers were cool, but he didn't really do that much in the movie, so it really wasn't a big point to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good for what he does, and they definitely were just like, okay, we need to have a cool action scene that doesn't involve Wolverine, so
Yeah,
let's just stupidly knock him out and then keep going. So
yeah. I had
yeah.
Pyro in as a mixed because
Hmm.
he has a likable kind of likable character.
Hmm.
Like you can tell he's struggling with his beliefs. He doesn't believe in what they're doing at the mansion, and he's more on Magneto's side. But the
Hmm.
way they show it, I don't think works out too well. Like
Yeah.
they don't explain it. Like they don't show why he hates humans and why he would go with Magneto.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
It just like happens.
yeah, I think he's just more of the type of character that he like wants to show his power, like gain more power, and kind of do what he wants, like whatever he wants to do. But they didn't really explain that in the movie. So when he went with Magneto at the end, like leaving his like friends behind,
Hmm.
like he didn't stick with his friends that have been with him since the like beginning of the movie. He just
Yeah.
left them there and like didn't explain anything. He just like, oh,
Hmm.
I want to go with them now. And
Yeah.
like even with him going with them, they didn't even show it. Like he was just standing on like in next to the trees, and they saw him. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll take him with us, and then
Hmm.
that's it.
Yep. And we don't ever see him again. So it's like,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
which I feel like they could have done much more with his character, because I'm pretty sure at the
Yeah.
beginning, like in the first movie, it showed him and Bobby like butting heads, kind of at the beginning. Like
Yeah.
he lit something on fire, and then Bobby froze the fire. So it showed
Yep.
that they've been like together for a long time. So it just
Hmm.
didn't feel right to have them like split up so easily.
Yeah, I get that. Like it was definitely felt, and I think that they were trying to do a little bit too much in the movie too. Like most of it pays off.
Yeah,
Like we said in a positive, like a lot of it worked, but there was a little, a few little things that they was like, okay, you maybe could have saved that for something else,
yeah,
and this definitely felt like one of them.
yeah.
So.
So another mixed I have is there were like in the beginning of the movie they had like weird cuts between scenes. Like like they have a
Yeah.
confrontation, and then they just change the scene. Which I
Yep.
think what were trying to do was show that these events are happening at the same time, because they did cut back to it, but it wasn't a smooth transition. So it
Yeah.
kind of felt like a rocky start at the beginning, but near the end it smoothed out. So that's why I have it in mixed and not negative.
Yeah.
Just because it wasn't such a big thing that it stretched out across the whole movie. It was just at the beginning. It was
Hmm.
kind of a bumpy start. So
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely trying to like catch up from like the end of the first one.
yeah,
And again, I'm gonna look it up real quick, but I'm like 99% certain that the guy who directed the first one also directed this one. But I could be wrong.
mm,
So okay, yeah, same guy directed both of them.
okay,
Um, so what I think happened is that he ended the first one. Like, okay, he was like, okay, I'm gonna make a comic book movie, and like we explained in like the first episode of like the first X-Men, this was really like the first big Marvel comic book movie to come out.
yeah,
Like, we had some beforehand, but they're mostly DC. This was like Marvel's like first big one.
yeah,
Um, so I feel like they didn't really know that there was going to be a second one, so they didn't
yeah,
really like pour everything into it. But I feel like once they realized that like, oh yeah, people really like this, yeah, maybe I'll keep going and actually try this time. That's just
yeah,
how it feels like to me. So what I think happened is that he was really trying to play catch up with how he ended the first one to try to
yeah,
like set everything up to make this movie a lot better. And I think that's why it kind of dragged a little bit in the beginning.
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, like
And also like that transition where Wolverine went from like him to like that wolf. That was funny.
yeah, that I forgot about that. Hang on.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I've
it's
got
okay.
another one. What was that about?
I have no idea.
I mean, it's explained why he went there. Like the professor was like, "Oh, there's like find your history here or whatever."
Yeah.
But that wolf didn't make sense. So
No.
we'll pass over that one.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any more mixed, or is that it?
um, let's see. No, I think that's it for mixed for me. I
All right.
mean, no, those would be negatives. So
Cool. All right. So, I don't have that many negatives. I only have like two, really.
yeah,
So again, just goes to show this movie definitely was really good.
yeah,
So I'm gonna start with the smaller negative. The first negative I have is again Cyclops just sucks. He's not a
yeah. I
good
have that on
character
there
in these
too.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah,
So again in the first one, he didn't really do much, which is like okay, he's supposed to be the leader of the X-Men.
yep,
In this one, I'd argue it's even worse because he gets taken out in the first 5 minutes with
yep,
Professor X. And Professor X had a reason for being taken out and doing all this stuff. We don't see Cyclops again until like the last like
yeah,
15 minutes of the movie when he's being mind controlled. And even then, he just shows up, Jean like fucking smacks him and he's like, "Oh yeah, my bad."
yeah,
And then he just cries at the end of the movie. So,
yeah,
I don't see him as like a leader of the X-Men. He just seems like an annoyance in Wolverine's
yeah,
way. So,
yeah. What I literally had written down is useless Cyclops, because I mean
yep.
he doesn't do anything, and he's kind of just a big joke of the whole movie. Because I mean, like they
Yep.
steal his cars. That's like that's what he's there
Yeah.
for. He's just there to be
Yeah.
like kind of a rival, I think. But he's not.
Yeah.
He's just not. He's like he's not
Yeah,
even.
he's just Wolverine's punching bag.
Yeah,
That's all he
exactly.
is.
That's what he is. Like
Hmm.
again, like he's supposed to be the leader of the X-Men, and
Hmm.
he's not. So they
Yep.
just make him so weak. Like he like when he's getting taken, like when they're kidnapping him basically, he
Hmm.
fights them. He takes out like two guards, and I mean that's easy.
Yeah.
They didn't have any powers. I mean, and they didn't have
Hmm.
guns because they couldn't because of
Yeah.
Magneto. But
Hmm.
he's taken out so easily by what was her name again?
Lady Shiva.
Yeah, Lady Shiva. Yeah, he was taken out so easily, which I think he could have, done a little better because he's like
Yeah.
he's really powerful, but he doesn't show it.
Hmm. Yep.
And then
It just really sucks.
yeah,
He really sucks.
and then also another negative I have is Rogue was completely useless.
Yep. That was
um,
mine too.
it they tried to focus on her still, but there was no reason to. Um,
No.
like her whole storyline was, oh, she's trying to get into the relationship with Bobby, but her powers are getting in the way of that. That's literally the whole storyline. And then
And that storyline doesn't even get resolved.
yeah, exactly. And then her only other thing she did in the movie was fly the plane for 2 seconds, crash it, and then break it.
Yep.
And then it wasn't. She didn't do well.
No.
Acting. She didn't really have to in this movie,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you can't even compliment that because she really didn't do much.
right? I mean,
But
like there was a few scenes where she's getting attacked, and like her only thing is that she screams. That's her whole, like, basically her whole character in this movie. She's useless.
Yep.
She's completely useless in
Yep.
this movie.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that's something I knew going into it was that she didn't really do
Yeah.
much because again, the first one, again, she was basically like one of the main characters in the first one, and even then she didn't really do much.
Yeah,
So it just sucks because the first one, like I said earlier, is like that's all she really does throughout this whole series. Like from now on, she's either barely in it or barely does anything. And this
yeah,
one really showed, like, she really shouldn't have been in this movie. Really, like
yeah,
she could have just been knocked out in the beginning, and that was it. Because I feel like the only reason that they kept her in was because she was the main character in the first one, and they like felt contractually obligated to keep her in it. Or like
yeah,
Anna Paquin was like, "Yeah, I wanna. Can I still be in it, please? Like I want money or something like
yeah.
that."
Like her,
So
I think her whole character is her connection to Logan. I think that's why they kept her around, is because they have a connection. But
yeah,
it really wasn't worth having her in there. I mean, moving
no, she only
into
talked to Logan like twice.
yeah, exactly, yeah, and then moving into I have this as a mixed kind of is the attack on the mansion, like
Mhm.
when they went to like take out all the kids. Like I don't understand. Uh, well, I guess they really were just there to get the parts for Cerebro, but
Yep.
like they made a point of going around and like tranking all the kids so that I mean they
Yeah,
could
that
have
was
been
weird.
stealthy. Like they didn't need
Hmm.
to attack everyone. And
Yeah, because I get why they did it. Like I get why they came in to get the parts, but
yeah,
and I understood why they shot that kid in the hallway. But it's
yeah,
like you didn't need to break into the rooms to shoot the kids because that alerted everyone that you were there.
yeah, and that definitely it felt weird. I mean, I get that. I guess like they had like kind of a bargaining chip, but they didn't use it because I mean they only took 6 kids and then they just
Yeah.
escaped so easily. And
Hmm.
then something that's also not like come back to is where did all the other like where did the
Yeah,
kids
we're
escape to?
Yep.
That they
Uh
were
huh.
just able to come back like perfectly
Hmm.
fine, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
like it wasn't something that was explained. It kind of just like when I was watching it, I kind of like during the scene I realized what they were doing. Like they were
Hmm.
talking about it before, like oh here's the plans for Cerebro, and then like when they were in the kitchen, I was like oh it's just a bonding scene I guess like oh like character
Yep.
development. And then they
Hmm.
like started attacking. I was like, wait, what? When was this gonna happen? Like, I don't remember
Yeah.
this happening. But um,
Hmm.
it felt like that's another scene in the movie that kind of felt like it was pushed in.
Hmm.
They don't have too many of those scenes in this movie, but that was definitely one of them. Like it
Hmm.
was one of the scenes that's just not explained too well.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it worked out well. I think. I mean, it did work out well. Like the action
Hmm.
scenes were good. Um, although I don't understand. Well, I guess I do understand why they brought like a trank gun in than actual guns because
Hmm.
like they're super powered. They like
Yeah.
they don't know what to expect. But it's like a house
Yeah.
full of
Exactly.
kids. So
Hmm.
why would you even risk that in the first place by attacking them?
Yeah. Hmm.
It just fell out of place, kind of. Like they could have been
Yeah.
stealthy instead of
Hmm.
attacking the whole building. So
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. Because like again, like I said, like they tranking that kid in the hallway made sense because he saw them.
right,
Because it was like okay, but like when they broke into the rooms to start shooting the kids, it's like okay, you doing that alerted everybody that you were there.
yeah,
So it's like you didn't really need to do that.
yeah,
So, because if they didn't break in, then that chick wouldn't have screamed, and then like Wolverine and Bobby wouldn't have known that there were more
yeah,
people and stuff like that. So
exactly, yeah,
it's like yeah, and then especially Colossus shows up for like 2 seconds,
yeah,
turns into Colossus once, gets shot, takes the kids, and God knows what happened to them the rest of
yeah,
the movie.
exactly,
So it's like yeah, it's like all right, and that again, like we were alluding to earlier with like Pyro, it's like they did have a lot of stuff going on where it's like okay, you didn't need to put that in. So
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. And yeah, like when they kidnapped the kids too, it's like, what was the point of kidnapping the kids? Because it really wasn't
Yeah,
even a
exactly.
bargaining chip. It was just like, oh yeah, we took some kids.
Yeah, he's
Why?
literally
I just don't worry about it.
Yeah, and then they also like there was one scene where they talked about it. They're like, why are we keeping the kids? And he's like,
Mhm.
I'm a scientist. I need to make sure my experiment goes as planned or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
didn't
it's like, oh,
answer the
that didn't answer the
question.
question.
That's not even
Yeah.
close to being an answer.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
that was something that kind of felt, useless. Like useless.
Yeah.
They didn't need to have it in there.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so my next negative, which is a big one, I guess, is I still really, really don't like Jean Grey.
Yeah,
um, so she does a lot more in this movie,
yeah,
but I still am just like, I don't like you. I really
yeah,
don't like you. And again, the actress isn't doing a bad job, I don't think, but they're just not giving her enough to do. And
yeah,
the problem is that I know in the comics and stuff that Jean Grey is like a big character. She
yeah,
becomes the Dark Phoenix. She's like super important. But they don't do anything with that. And even in this movie, they set it up a little bit because when she's fighting or whenever she does something super intense, her eyes start to have like a fiery glow, which is like, oh,
yeah,
it's the Phoenix Force inside of her. But it's like, okay, but have her do that more or have her do
yeah.
something meaningful with it. Because even when, towards the end, when she dies, it doesn't feel earned. It's just like, oh, she just killed herself.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking that like in that final scene when she's saving them. Like I was thinking like couldn't she have stayed in the plane and done that? Like held back the water
Yeah.
and like
Yeah, I
powered up
know.
the plane. It just felt like
Mm.
uh another scene that was out of place, right? I was just
Mm-hmm.
like thinking in my mind like how could she have done that differently without killing herself, right?
Yep.
So it just felt again out of place, and they definitely could have done something else.
Mm-hmm.
And also with her, like her in the first movie, like they say like she struggled to lift stuff, right? And that she
Yeah.
was also like when we're talking with Xavier, like after she's dead, he's like, oh, she always held back from her powers, like she was like afraid to use them or whatever.
Yeah.
But her sudden like upgrade in power is doesn't fit in with the last movie. Like I
Yep.
like there's no explanation for it. Really,
Mm-mm.
I mean, if you think about it, maybe it's because she's starting to use her power because she's afraid of what can happen. Like she wants to protect. She wants to be stronger to protect everyone, I guess. But again, that's not explained in that way. So it's
Mm-hmm.
you don't get a reason for why she's so much stronger. And I mean, again, she's like in the comics, she's like a super strong character, like
Mm-hmm.
very powerful, but they're not showing it, so it's not. And they also
Mm-hmm.
don't explain why. Like
Nope.
it just doesn't make sense in
No, it really
in their
doesn't.
version of it. It doesn't make sense.
No. And two is that in some of the comics and I know in the animated show is that they killed Jean and she was gone for a while and then they brought her back as the Dark Phoenix. It's like a big reveal. It's like, oh my
Mm.
god, look, she's still alive. And I feel like it didn't feel like Bryan Singer did it, who was the director. It
Yeah,
felt like it was like Fox was like, "Oh, we want the next movie to be Dark Phoenix because that's a very popular storyline. That'll get us money." So
yeah,
I feel like they really just mandated that she die in this movie just so they could have the next one, have her come back as Dark Phoenix.
yeah,
And it really, really felt like that. Like it felt like it was just completely out of place to have her just kill herself suddenly. Like it had no build up to it at all. Like the only thing that I guess built up to us in like the first 15 minutes when Cyclops hugged her and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not gonna let anything bad happen to you," and then she
yeah,
dies at the end anyway. So it's like there really was no build up to it. It's just like, "Oh, I need to kill myself because,"
yeah. It was
and
it was also
yeah,
weird because um in that scene the reason why she did it was to get the plane out of there from escaping
Mhm.
from water. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I get it, the plane wasn't trying to take off, but a safer plan would just be to, you know, like, seal up the ship and let the water hit
Mhm.
the plane. I mean, you
Yeah.
won't get out of there, like, right away, but you'd all be alive. Like,
Mhm.
there
And
was.
plus, like, she could stay in the plane and like
Yeah,
force it away, like away from them.
yeah,
So it's like wait till
exactly.
it's all floods.
Like, it was a weird scene because she was like all like she was crying like, oh no, this water is gonna hit the plane and we can't take off.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not like an end of the world scenario. I mean,
No.
there is no reason for her to get out of the plane and do what she did. Like,
No.
also to have them not save her, like have her not let them save her, was
Yeah.
an interesting choice. I mean, like what you're saying,
Mhm.
I think they were just trying to set up the Dark Phoenix storyline.
Yep.
Um, but it didn't. I don't think they it wasn't the best scene to do it in. Like there could have been
Definitely
a
not.
much more. Uh, there could have just been like a huge fight scene or whatever
Mhm.
that it would actually make sense for her to risk her life to save them, but it didn't. That wasn't the scene.
Mhm.
It didn't feel like they had like super high stakes with it. It
No, definitely not.
There was no reason for her to throw her life away to save them.
No. And they really should have saved it for like they should have saved Dark Phoenix for a lot later, I think,
Yeah,
because I think they should have set it up in the next movie and then have it pay off in another movie. Because in this one, this movie is telling a completely different story, which is a really good story, but it's not a good story to end on where like Jean sacrifices herself. Because
yeah,
I feel like it would have been better if anybody else had sacrificed himself. Because like, why is Jean doing it? She's not a main character at all in this movie. She doesn't
yeah.
do anything.
Right,
So it's like it's not meaningful when she sacrificed herself because number one, we don't care about her, and number two, in this story, she doesn't mean anything.
right.
So it's like what's the point? Like I really think that the studio should have realized that they can make more money if next movie they work on setting up Dark Phoenix and then they pay it off with something.
Yeah,
So it was really a stupid decision to set up Dark Phoenix at the end of this one because like why would you do that? It has nothing to do with what we're trying to tell.
yeah,
So it's just like it was really freaking dumb. And again, spoiler alert, they do a fucking horrible job next movie with Dark Phoenix anyway.
mm,
So it's like what's the you guys set up something really dumb at the end of a really good movie to have it pay off in something awful. So
yeah,
it's just like wow, that was really dumb of you guys.
yeah,
Yeah, so I didn't really get that. Like I really wish that she was a better character just in general anyway, because then we would have cared.
yeah,
But they just didn't do anything at setting her up at all. And I really, again, they should have had next movie had Jean and Cyclops actually be characters and have them maybe be the main characters of the next movie, focusing on the storyline,
yeah,
and then conclude it with something. But yeah, I feel like they just wanted to do like a trilogy, I guess, and they're like, no, we gotta. I don't know.
yeah. I think they used the wrong thing to set up a next movie. I mean,
Yeah.
you could have left it with Wolverine in his past, and that could have set up a much better. That would have been a much better cliffhanger for the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I think they're just going for the big moneymaker movie, right?
Yep.
Like they want the big thing. They want like a huge like event, right?
Yep.
But it didn't pay off, so
No.
it wasn't worth
And
going for it.
no. And this is something where I think that Marvel learned from. I think is because for X-Men, uh, after this movie, the movies are not good until like a couple of them. So it feels like I don't want to say it in like a mean way. I don't want to take it out of people think it's a sellout, but it really feels like they're just trying to make money for
Yeah,
these ones where it's like, okay, what storylines can make us a lot of money? And I feel like after like the success of the first one, they're like, okay, we can make a lot of money off of this, so let's do like the most popular storyline third to really hype people up.
Yeah, I think
And they shouldn't have done that because the Avengers, what they did is that they set up Thanos, but they didn't instantly do Thanos. Like, they
yes,
set up the
yeah,
Avengers, they did the Avengers, and then Thanos was teased at the end, but then we had to wait like 8 years or something until we saw him again. So
yeah,
it's like they did a really good job setting him up. So when he finally showed up, it was extremely satisfying.
yeah,
But in these ones, they're trying to set up Dark Phoenix. Like, they just set her up at the very end of 2 with her stupid death.
yeah.
So, and then have
I
her in the next movie. It's like,
Yeah, I think it's more of a problem on Fox's end because
mm-hmm.
I feel like like what you said, is more of a moneymaker, right?
Yeah.
They want to make, like, when you look at it, they have a whole bunch of superhero stuff, well, X-Men
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right? And when you look into like all their TV shows that they did, they were all terrible. Like they were not good whatsoever, but they were putting out
mm-hmm.
so many. I feel like just to make money off of them. They didn't.
Yep.
It wasn't something that they really tried doing. They just want. They
Mm-hmm.
weren't. They didn't love the series. I think. I don't think they're like. I think that they just don't love it. They're not fans
Mm-hmm.
of it. They see it as,
Yeah.
oh, it's something that so many people love. We can make so much money off of it. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so many people love this. Let's give them something that they love, right?
Yep.
It's it. They just want to make money off of it.
Yeah, and that's what's really sad because the rest of the series really feels like that. Because the next one is Last Stand, which is awful, which is what they're trying to do with the Dark Phoenix thing, and they do it terribly.
Mm.
And then X-Men Origins Wolverine, I think, was after that, and they made that to be like, okay, everyone's wanting to know what Wolverine's origin was, so let's do that so we can make a lot of money.
Yeah,
And they do an awful job with that one. So it's like for the next few movies, it really feels like they're just like selling out.
yeah,
It's just like, oh, 2 did really good, so now we gotta, like, make more money, but let's just not really try, because I think at that point, they're like, okay, people are gonna go see X-Men, so we gotta keep making X-Men movies, because then they'll make us money. Like,
yeah,
we don't care about it anymore. Which just, you can tell, and it just feels crummy, and it just sucks.
yeah,
Because, in, like, Avengers stuff, too, like, going back to that, like, they made a lot of movies, like they made a lot of stuff, but you can tell that they really cared about what they
yeah,
were making, and they really care about what they're doing and making it quality. Not anymore, but they did for the most part. So it just really sucks that Fox really just didn't care for him anymore
yeah,
after this movie. So it just sucks.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say on this movie. Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it for me.
Alright, cool. So, yeah, I know we kind of ended on like a little sour note of Fox in general, but
Yeah,
I just wanted to let everybody know that this movie, again, really good. I would personally rank it higher than the first Spider-Man in terms of like storytelling, because
yeah,
for me personally, I love when it's like a good story, and this one I think had a fantastic story.
yeah,
So, but unfortunately, this is kind of where X-Men peaks for a little bit.
mhm,
And it sucks it's at the second movie. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, so it kind of sucks. But there are a few good X-Men movies after this. Like, I know Days of Future Past is my favorite, but for, like, terms of, like, these X-Men characters, this is where it peaks, and even this one's not entirely perfect. So,
mhm,
it sucks, but, yeah, it's just a warning.
yeah.
But,
Uh,
so, yeah. What would you rate this one out of 10? And where would you rank it so far?
for this one, it again is like much better than the first one. It had actual storyline, and the characters worked well together. So, I'm definitely gonna say more of a 7.5. I think, yeah, closer to an 8 because I really did enjoy this one. I actually really enjoyed watching it. It felt like a good movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it definitely is worthy of a 7.5.
Gotcha. And would you say it's better than X-Men and Spider-Man?
Yes, I did enjoy it much better than Spider-Man.
Gotcha. All right. So, cool. So, yes, that is X2. This one was definitely the best one that we've watched so far. Next time, we're going to move on into Spider-Man 2, I'm pretty sure. So, next week,
Yep.
we'll move into that. For that one, that we're gonna have a little bit more
Yeah.
not fun. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while, and I don't know how you'll feel, but I personally am not the biggest fan of that one. I think I just have a bias towards it anyway, because everyone always claims it as being the best superhero movie of all time, and I am
Yeah.
very much do not agree with that. So, I mean, I guess I'm kind of looking forward to talk about it, I guess, because it'll be something to talk about. And then after that, unfortunately, we have X-Men The Last Stand. So, oh boy. So, just warning everybody, X-Men is not going to be fun for a while, because we have a couple movies in a row where it's just awful. But, hey, we get to move into Spider-Man 3 eventually, so it'll
Yep.
perk us up for a while. But, yeah, so that's X2, X-Men United, and next week we'll move into Spider-Man 2, so hope to see you guys there. So, yeah.
Bye bye.
Alright, yep, so bye everybody. See you next week.